As soon as we could dig it out of the ground, we started using it as money, and that's thousands of years ago. It was only in the early 70s that Nixon took the Americans off the gold standard. The American dollar was pegged to gold, and every other currency in the world, every other country in the world had to own American dollars and essentially peg their currency to the American dollar. So, right. By extension, their currencies were pegged to gold.
Well, this makes me question then, how do you think varying countries are going to be able to respond to the possible return of a gold standard?
Well, in an international climate of hyperinflation, the countries that have gold are going to have money, because gold will be the money. Someone is going to go back, and it's probably going to be China. Okay, China has been hoarding gold.
China has a whole bunch of gold.
We don't know how much gold China has. China nationalized the gold mines have always been nationalized, but they don't sell their gold. They take gold out of the ground and stockpile it. We don't know how much they have. Now, they have owned up to having, as of 2010, these are 2010 numbers, they've owned up to having 1,054 metric tons of gold. Compared
It's a nice pile of gold.
Yep. And it's probably physical gold. Okay?
That puts them somewhere around 6th on the list internationally for, like you mentioned, not the totality of their gold reserves, but their visible gold reserves.
Yes. What they claim to have is 1,054 metric tons. They have way more than that, and everyone thinks that they are going to eventually maneuver themselves into a position where they will peg their currency to gold. Right?
Well, if they do that, they are no Libya. We know that Libya recently talked about putting their dollar onto pegging it to gold, and we know that Muammar Gaddafi was ousted from power in Libya, and that was probably a fairly big influence. But let's face it, China is not Libya.
Right.
You cannot attack China.
We're just not going to go overthrow Hu Jintao. That's not going to happen. Libya suffered from NATO democracy by bombing because Gaddafi had decided to launch a currency called the gold dinar, which was going to be, obviously, it was going to be gold. It was going to consist of gold. It was going to have intrinsic value, whereas our paper money, our fiat currency, has no value. Right. And you know what? The economies of the world the countries of the world could not abide that. And we were fine with Libya, with Gaddafi, right up until he said that. Coincidentally, he had some uprisings. Al Qaeda appeared out of nowhere, and we armed them, and they overthrew, with the aid of NATO bombs, they overthrew their government. Not to defend a dictator, we just don't want to go there. But the thing is, what they had is better than what they have now.
Yeah, well, they'll have 10 years of civil war. But if China does it, I mean, you can't just go bomb China, right? I mean, that's just not an option.
If China does it, it's going to be done. And once there's a major player that has a gold-backed currency, that will be the world's reserve currency. It will actually encourage people to dump American dollars, and they will hold Chinese yuan in reserve instead of American dollars to peg their currency in to gold, so that they'll have something. See what I mean? So when the Chinese do that, the American dollar evaporates. It becomes without value. And so in those conditions, okay, I hope I'm not getting too speculative here, but I'm using this hypothetical example of a scenario that I can see unfolding as a way to illustrate a problem that we have. Because as we've all heard our dear beloved Prime Minister say that our banking system is the most sound in the world. Well, I think if anyone understands how currency has worked up until 1970, I think it was 71 or 72 that Nixon took the Americans off the gold standard.
Finally took the last aspects of the American currency off of the gold standard.
So it's only been the last 40 years that gold has not been money. Like the value of money was directly attached to the value of gold. After Nixon took the American, because the America went bankrupt during the Vietnam War, right? they went so far into debt, they had to print so much money that they couldn't afford to redeem the American dollars that were on the world market for gold. They just didn't have the gold. You know what I mean? So they took it off. They unpegged their currency from gold, and everything in the all the currencies in the IMF started floating freely against each other. So it's the biggest currency, the currency of the biggest economy, that becomes the reserve currency. Now,
right.
We'll see the time when the Chinese yuan becomes the world reserve currency, and in a situation which hyperinflation is running rampant, countries with gold, okay, are going to have money. Countries with no gold are going to have no money.
Where does that leave Canada? How's Canada doing for gold?
We're up a creek, man. We're up a creek. I'll tell you, I was thinking about this stuff a couple days ago, and I happened to just Google how much gold does Canada have in reserve, and of course Wikipedia comes up in the heading gold reserves, and then they have a ranking, a list of all the countries in the world and how much gold they have. And I read down the top 10, and I was like, oh, where's Canada? Oh shit, I thought we'd be higher than that because we have the best banking system in the world. Of course, a strong banking system would have a gold hoard.
No, you'd think.
I mean? You'd think, because gold has historically been money. Gold is the officially recognized only secure hedge against inflation. Okay? So I read down the top 10, and I was like, oh, no, Canada, what the hell? Because we're a G8 country, and we have the most sound banking system in the world. So you'd think that we'd be in the top 10. So
well, 11, if we're not in the top 10, we must 13, be in the top 20.
14, 15, no, 16, 17. Wait, no. Then I went back to the top. I said, I must have missed it. 1, 2, no. Top 20. Then I was like, holy crap. I kept on going down. Guess where Canada is? Guess where?
You're scaring me now. I'm going to guess top 50?
No, 80. Okay?
80th?
80! I'll start naming off some countries that have more gold in reserve than we do. Okay? Libya, 25, with 143.8 metric tons of gold. That makes
Not anymore. I think England stole that from
Yeah. Sorry, Libya. We just conquered you. Al-Qaeda, you can run around and control that desert. We'll have the oil and your gold. Thank you very much. And don't ever talk about launching a gold-backed currency again. Ever.
That's right.
Libya.
What about some Central American countries? How's El Salvador doing?
Well, I mean, even ahead of Libya is Lebanon. Lebanon it comes in at number 18 with 286.8 metric tons of gold.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
I think I'm looking at the list here now, and El Salvador has twice as much gold as Canada, and they come in 70th.
Yeah, it's incredible. And you wouldn't think Cambodia would have 4 times as much gold as us, would you?
No.
But they do.
This is astounding. I'm just looking at the list here, and there are countries that.
Hey, do you remember what was that movie with Jesus Christ, what's his name? He looks like Frank Zappa. He had that show where he was the hip hop guy, and then he had Ali G. Yeah, Ali G. What was his other character that was from Kazakhstan? What
was that? Jeez.
And he was after Pamela Anderson in that movie there? What the hell is that? Anyway.
I forget all his characters' names.
Yeah, Sacha Baron Cohen. What the hell is that? Anyway, Kazakhstan was that country we were making fun of. Okay?
Right.
Guess how much gold Kazakhstan has?
They've got more than Canada.
They've got almost 20 times more of a gold hoard than Canada does. 73.6 metric tons of gold.
And that's a country that really only knows a national statehood since 1991. I mean, I'm sure there's a prior history within the land of Kazakhstan, but I mean, the national government.
The character's name is Borat.
Borat, that's right, that's right.
Damn. Anyway, the country that we were making fun of there, Kazakhstan, with Borat, okay, they have 20 times more gold than this. What a joke. What a freaking joke. I mean, I'm literally in a state of shock. That
Canada went wrong somewhere here, because I'm seeing like Australia, another Commonwealth nation, they've got a bit more than Kazakhstan, and Canada and Australia, both being Commonwealth nations and both having a history timetable not too far apart, I wonder what went wrong.
Yeah.
Like, why doesn't Canada have gold reserves?
There's places that I've never heard of that have more gold than Canada. What is Mauritius? Mauritius.
Yeah, that's a small island, I believe.
Latvia. Freaking Sri Lanka. We're taking refugees from a country that has twice as much, more than almost 3 times as much gold as we do. We take refugees from that place.
Yeah, this kind of brings a whole new perspective to looking at the situation of finance in the world.
Yeah. And I know I'm treading on dangerous ground here. If we start talking about world economic collapse, hyperinflation, etc. We're a spoiled generation because we're literally my mother's generation. She was born at like the last year of World War II, right? So her family at least has memories of that. Her parents could tell her about, okay, this is what it was like in the Depression. This is what it was like in World War II. It really sucked. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Our generation, no one our age has any clue. We don't even know about Vietnam. You know what I mean? We don't know, like, we do not know hardship, so we don't think it's possible for shit to go wrong. But unfortunately, it is. And every single time that people forget that shit can go wrong, shit goes wrong because we ignore the fundamentals of our economy, right? Mm-hmm. How did we let our central bank? How come? What government is responsible for this? How come Canada has 3.4 metric tons of gold, coming in 80th in the world?
Yeah, and 3.4 metric tons of gold. I mean, I would like to have that. I'll give you that. But I mean, when you compare Canada's population to some of the populations of these other countries, and the short span that some of these countries have existed, it's actually quite puzzling. And this is definitely something we're going to have to look into further.
Yeah. I mean, I just want to make it really clear that hyperinflation is a likely result of any meltdown of the euro. Okay? It's going to infect every economy in the world. Hyperinflation is likely. It's not some half-baked speculation based on a conspiracy theory. It's nothing like that. Inflation is likely. And in that kind of situation, the only hedge against inflation is gold. Throughout all of history, that's the way it's been. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Google it, people. I mean, if anyone's sitting there going, "Oh my God, these guys are going off,"
they're off the charts here.
Yeah, just Google it. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm blown away. We don't have any gold.
Can I just mention one other thing here, really quick, too? So,
go for it.
United States is listed as number 1 with the most known tons of metric gold. Now, or metric tons of gold. I mean, that in itself is kind of curious because they would be the ones reacting, essentially, as you put it, to any move by China. If China did try to peg a gold standard, United States isn't in a horrible position to reassert itself to some extent. Obviously, not the way that they can as the primacy of power that they have right now.
Right. Well, but the United States has claimed to have the most gold. Their hoard, they claim it is 8,133 metric tons of gold. Okay.
Right.
But anyone who's been following the Republican race for the nomination is familiar with Ron Paul. Ron Paul has been for years saying we need to audit the Fed. Mm-hmm. And the first thing that they're going to do when they audit the Fed is go in there and say, so do we have all the gold that we're supposed to have, right? There's a lot of speculation that they have no gold.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure that Ben Bernanke has answered that question and said that the Federal Reserve owns no gold. So if the Americans own all this gold, who is it? Is this private banks in the United States that own this gold? Is it actually in the United States?
This is where it gets complicated.
These are all big questions that need to be answered.
This is where it's complicated, Mike, because first of all, the United States says they have this much